everybody. Today is September 9th. Is that right? Yes, September 9th, 2018. This is Anne, and I am back for another update for my Woolly Wonka Fibers podcast, as well as my Flosstube. So I'll be talking about knitting, hand spinning, cross stitching, reading, quick life update. I think that's it. If you're new to my channel, welcome. I'm delighted to have you here with me for a little while. Although today is probably going to be a lengthy video. I have a lot of stuff to talk about. To my returning viewers, glad to see you all again as well. So welcome back. I always appreciate your likes and subscriptions and comments and interaction. Always good to hear from you. So yeah, it's September already. We are more than a week into it, which has completely blown my mind. Normally this weekend I would be at the Salida Fiber Festival, but I opted not to do that this year. It's an outdoor festival and it's hard to do by yourself, and since my husband is in the UK, I actually have my phone in case he decides he's going to text me before he falls asleep. He got in like 11:30, I think, my time here in the US, Mountain Time. And then they had a several hour drive to where his business meeting is, and they didn't have rooms ready at the hotel. So they walked around for 3 hours, and then they went out to dinner. And then they stood in the lobby for a while. And when he called, I could tell he was really tired, but he was trying to stay up and kind of get over his jet lag or reprogram to the wake sleep cycle over there. So anyway, I told him, just text me before you go to bed just so I know you're still breathing, all that good stuff. Otherwise, things are really good here. I think we'll just jump right into it today because, like I said, I do have quite a bit to talk about, and I want to make sure that this doesn't run on to podcast of epic proportions. So we'll just get started. Okay, so let's talk about knitting first. A whole bunch of new releases. If you follow me on Instagram as Woolly Wonka Fibers, you've probably seen some of those. I wanted to follow up on a new release that was actually, I think it was last week, and that is this pair of socks. They are the green tea socks, named after this brand new colorway, which is a speckle dye. It's kind of a light pistachio green, and then it's got speckles of dark green and kind of a mid-range green, as well as kind of some little coppery brown specks. There's that one, there's some more up here. Not exactly a neutral, but it would work great with a lot of different colors. So these are knit with my Rhiannon sock. You can use any sock yarn, it'll work fine for these. They are worked in the round from the cuff down. They have a short row heel and a wide toe. And then the leg and the foot have a very simple, it's just knit and purls. But it gives it kind of a nice little sort of texture to it, a little bit of interest without being crazy. There it is in the round on the leg. So I will link to the pattern below. The pattern is available as a Ravelry download, and the colorway is actually available in my shop. So there's pattern release number 1. The second pattern release that released last week is the Elder Shawl. Now, I don't have the sample to show you guys today because it's already on its way to the Yarn Guys so that they can turn around and take it to Vogue Knitting Live San Francisco next week. So what I will do is I will insert a picture here of the shawl, just so you guys can see it. Now, this one's knit in the Black Dahlia colorway on Nimue sock, which is the 50/50 silk superwash merino. This is part of the Ohem alphabet series that I've been working on for the guys for the last couple of years, and actually will continue into next year as well. We have one more to do this year. They come out quarterly. This is a really nice shape. It's one of my favorite shawl shapes because it actually comes all the way around to the front, but you don't need a pin or anything to hold it closed. It stays on your shoulders really nicely. It is a 2-skein project, and it is named after the elder bush or elder tree, depending on where you are. When I was a kid, my grandmother had 3 big elderberry bushes along the driveway to her farmhouse. And so late July, early August usually is when the berries would be ripe. And so we always used to make elderberry jam or elderberry jelly in the summer. And it's not something that you can really get commercially, or at least not easily commercially. I mean, maybe small producers, but it's not something like grape that you can get anywhere. Really delicious, and I still have fond memories of that from growing up. So it was fun to have this tree come up in the alphabet, the tree alphabet collection. So that one is also available as a Ravelry download. You can always order yarn from the shop. Okay. Next, I released this pattern this past Friday, and I'm really excited about this one. I think you guys remember I read a book called Enchantment of Ravens earlier this year, which I absolutely loved. Well, it inspired me to think up a set of 4 shawls, one for each of the seasonal fairy courts. And I decided to start with Summerland, which is the court where they have this big fairy ball and everybody's dressed in amazing clothing and everything is kind of themed off the color of flowers. So this is Summerland. She is a big, beautiful piece. So this is a circular shawl, and it starts at the center point here. It is knit in a brand new yarn base. It is a superwash merino, cashmere, and silk blend. I have dyed it up in 4 rosy colors that you can see there, and each section has a different motif in it. The nice thing about circular shawls is every single round is the right side, so you never have to flip and do any work on the back. So it starts with that center motif, and then it goes on to, sorry, there's not really enough room to show you all of this. This little rose bud motif, and then this larger rose border, and it's finished off with this great kind of open eyelet border. The pattern calls for 3 different colors of beads. There's one color that's worked here in the center. There's a second color that's worked in these 2 sections. And then there's a third color that's worked in the center of this motif and down into the dark purple border. So this is available also as a Ravelry download, and it is also available as a kit if you want to duplicate it exactly. It comes with enough yarn to make the pattern as written, so it's 2 half skeins of the lightest colors, and then it's full skeins of the rest of the colors, and it comes with the 3 colors of beads as well as a set of themed stitch markers, and the pattern. That's part of the kit if you are interested. Really had a fun time doing the photo shoot for this one. I love how it came out. I love the colors. So there's 3 more in this series that will be coming out at some point, but I don't have, they're on less of a crunch type deadline. So whenever they come out is when they're going to come out. Okay. And then finally, the last little bit of sort of shop-oriented knitting news is, again, if you follow me on Instagram or Facebook, you'll see that my shawl club for the end of 2018 into 2019, slots have opened up for that. They will be open through the end of October, which is when the first kits will ship. So I'm doing all of the yarn and packaging of the kits, and we have 8 designers who I'm working with this year. The theme is the Celtic Year, so it's going to focus on each of the 8 Celtic festivals, and we'll start with Samhain, which is at the end of October, 1st of November. So that's the first kits will ship to start with that project. They're all going to be done on my Nimue sock base, which is a great yarn to use for shawls. The kits will come with the yarn, the pattern, some goodies that are themed to the season. There will also be a downloadable PDF that will include some history and background about each of the festivals, some information about them, how the ancient Celts would have celebrated, why they celebrated this particular festival at that time of year. It'll also include some suggestions if you would like to celebrate that particular seasonal festival yourself, things you can do with your kids, things you can do by yourself. I also have compiled a short reading list as well as playlist for things that you can listen to for free on YouTube, or if you have like an Apple Music account, something like that, that you can find the music out there in the web. Just to kind of get you in the spirit of each of those festivals. And I will also be doing a short preview unboxing video of each of those kits. It will not be part of my normal podcasting. So if you're a club member, you'll have access to that. It's kind of a little more of an immersive type club. It's not just a project. And there's lots of different options in the shop for ways you can purchase the club subscriptions. You can pay for everything up front. You can do it as an installment plan. You can just get the patterns. Gives you lots of options depending on what you like to do, how you like to budget for bigger purchases like that. If you want more information about the designers and the themes and when things will ship and details, all of those details, I will put a link to that club page down below so you guys can pop over and take a look at that, and if it interests you, then you know where to find it. Okay, so now let's move on to personal knitting. I am so close, and one of the things on my list to do today after I'm done recording my podcast while it's uploading is I am so close to finishing the front of the cabled sweater I'm working on. I have an inch left to do to finish shaping the front neckline and then bind off for the shoulders, and then that's done. And I just have 2 sleeves to knit. So that will be my task for next week, and I would really like to have this finished up by the end of February. The end of September, if I can. That's kind of my goal, to make sure that I stay on track with my work-related knitting. So otherwise, I have not been making a ton of progress on these because I've been working on work knitting, but I am still working on the Brago socks for the Blaine Fleece and Fiber Tolkien along that's running through September. The pattern is by Virginia Sattler Reimer, and this is available on Ravelry. She has this as a downloadable pattern there. And I am working it in Cherry Tree Hills sock yarn in the Java colorway. And I am done with the first leg and ready to put the heel in. She has the pattern written for a flap heel, which I don't mind doing, but I've really become a convert to the Fish Lips Kiss heel, so that's what I'll substitute in here. So that just gives you a little close-up of the knit and purl texture pattern on the leg. So these are fun. I mean, I'm going to try to get them done by the end of September, but, you know, whatever I get done, I get done. anyway, I think they'll be a great kind of neutral-y pair of socks, and they're fun. So, and I'm using stash yarn, which I'm all about the using of the stash yarn these days if I can. As always, I will link to that pattern in the notes below. I'm really going to try to be better about that because I've noticed that I've missed some links. And I do want to try to make sure that if you guys are interested in something, you can actually go and find it. Go crazy. Okay, so we are done with that. Let's move on to hand spinning. Last time I think I mentioned that I was working on a very small little batch of Quivute, which is the musk ox down. This is from, I've just lost the name of it. I'll put a link down below. Windy something musk ox. I originally bought the fiber about 10 years ago. I have been hoarding it. It was just a little bag's worth. It wasn't a ton. It was only a 1.2 ounces. So this is what I spun up. It's the natural color of the down. It's not dyed, so it's kind of gray-y browny gray. 175 yards. So it's kind of a light fingering. Excuse me. We have had some rain here, which is great, but it's also sagebrush season, so the pollen count is out of this world here. So I'm a little croaky. Anyway, so I spun this up as a 2-ply. Because of how, let's back up. The down fiber was prepared into a large bat that was kind of rolled up, and that was how that was presented in the original form. So down is a shorter staple, meaning the length of the hair is shorter than, let's say, merino or some of the long wools that are really long. As a result, this is better spun up or more easily spun up using a woolen type drafting process so that you get a lot of air into the singles before you ply them to make a 2-ply yarn. So that's what I did with this. I spun it up fairly loftily as a woolen yarn with supported long draw, for those of you who keep track of those sort of things, and then plied it and put a decent twist into it. Came out super soft. It almost feels like it has silk in it, even though it's just the down from the musk ox. And I think with 175 yards, I've got enough here to do like a lacy cowl. And there's several of those that I'm looking at, but I haven't decided yet which one I want to pick. So at some point it'll get knit up, but it's just too nice not to use. It's just gorgeous and super soft. So then I turned to a new project, a new spinning project. And this is also for the September Tolkien along through Blaine Fleece and Fiber. And I'm actually using some fiber that Jen sold through her shop. Excuse the bag rustling. I got 5 ounces of these little Rolags, and they are a combination of, I don't think I have the tag up here, Corriedale wool, I think merino, silk, bamboo, and silk noil, although there is not much silk noil in them. And you can see they're a gorgeous like forest palette. There's dark green and dark brown and kind of a slightly brighter green. And it's all sort of frosted with the bamboo, which doesn't take the dye as deeply. So these were all hand prepared on a blending board by Jen. And then she, I mean, I can't even imagine how she can sell these because it takes forever. But anyway, this is half of the 5 ounces. So there's 2.5 ounces of those left here. So those are what I have to spin. And I have finished the first half of those, and here's what this spun yarn looks like. These are the singles. So it's a gorgeous, gorgeous tweedy, heathered single. And so when they get plied together, it will be a very subtle, almost solid, solid tweed yarn. And I'm spinning it fairly finely. I'm hoping for a lightweight fingering, something for a shawl, because 5 ounces hopefully will give me 450 yards or more, which would be great, a great amount for that size shawl. So number 1 is done. Number 1 bobbin is done. I'll spin the second half. We'll see how I go. Again, I'm not like rushing to finish that for anything, but it would be great to have it done in September if I can. Okay, oh, and the colorway for that is Road Goes Ever, Ever On, which is very Tolkien themed as well, and part of the reason I picked it. I think it's a very hobbity color, that greens and browns in a tweed. Love it. Okay, so let's move on now and we'll talk about books. I finished Fool's Assassin by Robin Hobb. If you've watched me for any amount of time, you know one of my pet peeves. Books in a series that end and make you read the next one, like cliffhangers. Do not care for that at all, but other than that, which is how this book ended, because there's another 1 or maybe 2 in this set of her books about these characters. Well written, loved the plot, loved the character development, was really glad to see some characters that I remember from other books of hers that I've read come back to make another appearance in this one. And yes, it made me want to read on the next book. I mean, it was well written enough that I actually wanted to go ahead and continue on with the series. I probably won't right away, but I like her work and I like her writing, so there's no reason why I wouldn't pick that book up, I don't think. It is a little Game of Thronesy, but I think had better editing. Like, it's a tighter book than George R.R. Martin tends to write. It wasn't quite as long, and it wasn't quite as... I mean, there were plenty of characters in it, but you did not need to constantly refer to the front of the book to figure out who these people were or how they related to each other. It was much more straightforward, I guess is what I'm saying. But similar feel to it, a little bit medieval feel, even though it's not technically medieval. But folks still riding on horseback and no central heating, just fires, and riding on horseback is how there are no machines of modern life, I guess is where I'm going with that. A little bit of magic, but it's not the only driving force in the story. She's done a really good job balancing kind of some fantasy and some realism and creating good characters and a good storyline that are fun to follow. So, recommendation for that if you like that type of book. The next book I read was a book, again, for my Around the World in 52 Books challenge, that was for a book that came out, that was published in 2018. And the title of the book is Meg, Jo, Beth, and Amy. So from that, you can probably guess that it is about Louisa Alcott's book, Little Women. Nonfiction. So I picked the book up and I got it from my library as an ebook, downloadable borrow. I thought that the book would be more about kind of the inspiration for the characters and the places and the storylines that Louisa May Alcott used to write Little Women. And the author does talk about that in the first, not quite quarter, maybe the first 25% of the book. The rest of the book looks at sort of the story of the story. So after Little Women was published in the 1860s, what other publications were made for it, how many other editions did various publishers come out with, how it got a following in places like Europe and even in Japan and China. Talked about the movies that were made. And then the last, probably third of the book discusses like where Little Women fits into maybe reading curriculum of today or not, which is sort of what the author is saying, and whether it's a book that stands up to be read by both women and men or girls and boys, and how it stands up for 21st century. And one of her interesting points is that while most students' curriculums teach Tom Sawyer by Mark Twain, almost none of them even have Little Women on their reading list. And she interviewed a number of educators for children who were in that sort of middle school age bracket. And it talks about the fact that basically, to paraphrase a little bit, most of what she found was that teachers felt that boys wouldn't read unless they were given a story that was about a boy having an adventure, whereas girls would read anything or more things, and therefore they would likely find Little Women on their own, and so as a result they would get assigned something like Tom Sawyer to read because that's what they could get the boys in the class to read. So there was an interesting discussion about, you know, is Little Women a book that now just resonates with girls, or does it even resonate with girls anymore? So it talks about some of the themes of independence and growing up and feminism that the author feels are incorporated in this book, and probably is a book that should be read by more people. And then she also talks about some of the contemporary references, so either books, TV, or movies, that while they aren't Little Women, reproductions of Little Women, they tackle a lot of the same themes, and they owe kind of a debt to the groundbreakingness that was Little Women in order to even exist today. And one of the things that she references is the Gilmore Girls, which was kind of an interesting tie-in. So it was an interesting book, raised some really interesting points. I didn't find it a light read. Like, it was not, I would have liked it to have a little more of history in it, and maybe a little less sort of how does this fit into 21st century life. But I understand where she was going with the book, and that was kind of the point of her writing it, was that analysis of the book. Sorry, there's someone, Lizzie's laying on the floor having a dream about something, but she sounds like she's kind of sucking on her teeth. I don't know what she's doing. Anyway, sorry, rabbit trail. So anyway, that's where we are with that particular book. Yes, I would recommend it, but I think go into it knowing that it reads more like a textbook for a class rather than like a fun and interesting nonfiction read. So then I switched my focus to something else, which this topic was a book that was published in either 2015, 2016, or 2017 by an author you had never read before. So I pulled one of the books off the shelf that my dad had sent me, and this is called How to Stop Time. The author is Matt Haig. So the kind of catchphrase on the back of the cover says, "How many lifetimes does it take to learn how to live?" This book is kind of a combination between, and I'm not quite halfway, maybe a third. This book is a combination between time traveler's wife and The Curious Case of Benjamin Button. The main character is known as Tom Hazard. He is somebody who, while he's not immortal, basically 1 year of his life is the equivalent to 15 years, give or take, for normal humans. And he does not, while he can be killed, again, he's not immortal, and he does age, he's not really subject to most of the human ailments that carried off a lot of people in the 17th, 18th, 19th centuries. So, like, he doesn't get the plague. He doesn't come down with anything horrible that would set him back. So the first 2 centuries of his life, and the tale kind of begins in the 1580s, where he's a young man. He's just lost the love of his life. She's just died. And he's trying to sort of figure out why he's different or what's wrong with him. And as he goes through, the book is told with some flashbacks and then some jump aheads and then flashbacks to a different century. So you kind of are getting little pieces of his life as a trail of breadcrumbs through as you read the book. So in the late 1870s, he's found by others of his kind, and he joins the Albatross Society, which is this group of very, very long-lived people, and they sort of have a group of rules and a code that they live by so that they can continue to stay under the radar of everybody else. And one of those things is every 8 years you move and you reinvent yourself and you do something else with your life. So it takes you through Elizabethan England. He's in Jazz Age Paris. He's in late 19th century New York. He's in current day Los Angeles. So far, this book I absolutely love. It brings up all kinds of interesting philosophical points. It is fiction, I guess I should say that. It brings up a whole bunch of interesting philosophical points about, you know, what does it mean to be alive? Do you only experience the life truly lived if you love somebody, if you have sorrow in your life, if you can experience new things? And that's one of the topics that comes up a lot in this book, because this person has lived for so many centuries. Many things aren't new anymore to him. Human interactions tend to be things that have already happened to him. He sort of recognizes every scenario because he's been through so many interactions with other humans. So it's kind of a book about him trying to find out who he is and decide what he wants from his very long life and how he wants to approach each day that he wakes up and has only aged a minuscule amount. And how does he look forward and how does he look back? So you can probably tell from that description, I am really enjoying this. I, of course, will report more on it when I finish it, but yeah, so far a really good book. And again, you know, something my dad sent me, so it tends to be a book that I love. My dad definitely knows what I like. Okay, have a quick sip of tea. And let's move on to cross stitch. Okay, so we finished up Arbitrary August, and I am going to insert the vlog clips for the last week of August so you guys can see what I worked on then. And so I'm going to go ahead and put those in. Hi everyone, today is Sunday the 26th of August 2018. This is what I have gotten accomplished today. I have stitched more of this really, really boring white and barely gray section right here. I put in another 300 stitches. This right here, this line, is the halfway point from top to bottom. So there's the top, and the bottom will live somewhere down here, but that marks the midway point of this particular chart, which is Winter's Encounter, which is a Heaven and Earth design charted piece of artwork. Hang on, I was gonna look and see if I have the artist's name. I think it's Linda Prindle, is that right? Sorry, I'm not prepared. Yeah, Laura Prindle. So that's where I am on that. This is the last time it will come up for Arbitrary August, so you guys have seen that one grow just a little bit. Next up for tomorrow, back to Which Way. Hoping to get another couple hundred stitches put into that, and still garnering for a page finish sometime this year, so we'll see how that goes. But that is where this project is and what I will be working on tomorrow. I will be back to show you an update then once I get some stitches put in. Bye, guys. Hello again, everybody. Today is Monday, the 27th of August, 2018. So here is my update for today's Arbitrary August selection, which is Which Way. It came back out again, and I put in this block and the couple of blocks here, so just about 300 more stitches. Getting there slowly but surely. That big full moon is starting to appear, which I love. The colors in this, just gorgeous. So next up, let me show you what I will be working on for tomorrow. That is Shoot the Moon, and let me show you what that is going to look like when it is finished. It is a mini version of Shoot the Moon with no background. It's Heaven and Earth charting of artwork by Leanne Seed. And I am working on, I think it's page 5. I think there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pages so far. There's a little bit kind of in page 3 that's right here that I haven't done yet. That is here. But I think, given that I've only got one day that I'm slated to work on this, I'm going to just focus on this part of her elbow and see if I can extend the silhouette down through there. So that is currently where I am on that one, and when that comes out tomorrow, I will of course do an update. We're kind of getting into the home stretch here. I have this project, Winter's Encounter, which is the Heaven and Earth design of the horse in the snowstorm. That comes out once more. That'll be the 29th. I have, what do I have? I have the 12 Days of Christmas for the 31st, and I have one other project. I have to double check what I have down. But at any rate, this is tomorrow's project. So I will be back then to update you with some more information and show you what I've gotten done. Bye for now. Hello everyone. This is my progress from Tuesday the 28th of August 2018 for Arbitrary August. I have worked on Shoot the Moon. This is the mini version from Haid with no background, and I worked on filling in this section of her arm. Believe it or not, that's about 4 strands of floss, 4 lengths of floss there. It just takes a long time when you're doing 1/1 on 28 count, but that is where this project is currently. Glad that I was able to get at least a few stitches in on her. And so now moving on to what I'll be working on for Wednesday the 29th. My random number generator sure did love the Stargazer. This beautiful gal is back out again. So I will be working on her today. I originally thought I was going to maybe put some stitches in in her sleeve, and I still may do that, but I think I may also come down and work here in kind of the bustle of her dress a little bit. But we'll see. We'll see how much time I have after work and how far I get with things. So that will be on the docket for tonight, and I will be back to show you my progress either later today or tomorrow, and that'll give us just 2 more days worth of projects. I have Winter's Encounters that's up for tomorrow, and then the very last day of the month I'm going to be working on Jim Shore's The 12 Days of Christmas, which is the only project I have not yet touched this year, so that will be a nice way to kind of close out this fun month. So talk to you guys later. Have a good one. Bye. Hi everyone, it is Anne. Today is Thursday the 30th of August 2018. I'm back with an update for Arbitrary August, and here is what I worked on yesterday. So the Stargazer by Mirabilia, and I filled in a bunch of the light gray here in her sleeve, and then I just came down and I started working on the really lightest color, I think it is, in her the ribbons that are tied at the back of her dress. So there she is in all her current glory. I'm actually really impressed. I think this is the 4th time this came out for Arbitrary August, and I'm kind of impressed at how much I got accomplished on this with just four days of hit and miss kind of stitching on it, so yay. Really loving how this is looking on that Picture This Plus Phantom, and hoping to get back to this again at some point, maybe this year or maybe next. So let's move on to today. Today's project is Winter's Encounter again. I already know that today's going to be kind of a wash. I got 11,000 things on the to-do list. So if I can get 100 stitches put in this, we'll call it a win. It's already been out other days in August. I've basically done this whole section here. I'm going to probably try to do this 100 block of stitches, and then if I have time, I'll restart this next 100 blocks for that next diagonal, but that will be kind of unlikely. We'll see how today goes. Anyway, that's where I am. I will be back tomorrow to talk about Friday's final day on Arbitrary August and show you guys what I'll be working on, and then do a final update. Talk to you then. Bye. Hi everybody. Today is Friday, August 31st, 2018, the last day of Arbitrary August. Yesterday I worked on Winter's Encounter. The only thing I got done was this 100 square block right here. So yeah, not very much. That is where I am currently on this project. At least I got several days of a few hundred stitches put in on it. So I've got this chunk of page 2 completed. And I believe this row is the halfway point in the height of this. It's a vertical or landscape type, horizontal orientation. So, you know, some stitches are better than nothing. This did come out several times in August, but that is where this project is currently. It's a mini, so there's really only about 6 pages. There's, I think, 1 row, like down here. So there's 1 page and then like 1 extra row. But that is where this pretty piece is currently living. We'll see when I get back to that. Hopefully it will come up at some point, but we'll see. I'm still going back and forth about plans for 2019 and how I want to deal with projects and what kind of rotation I want to do, but we'll get to that some other time. Let's talk about what I'm going to work on today for the last day of Arbitrary August, and that is Jim Shore's 12 Days of Christmas. This is a DesignWorks kit that I picked up off of 123 Stitch. It's not out of print, so you can still get it in kit form. I Haven't worked on this at all this year, and it actually did not come up in the random draws from the random number generator. So I just went ahead and slotted it in here on the last day so that I had an opportunity to put some stitches in on it. So it is a kit, but I have placed out the original Ada with a 22 count hardanger that's been hand dyed in the colorway, I believe it's Legacy. Yes, Legacy from Picture This Plus. So it's just a nice kind of antiqued colorway. And so it will be smaller than the original 14 by 16, which was on 14 count Ada, because I'm doing it 1/1 on the 22 count. So this is where I am right now. I have this border finished. I've started the patchwork quilt in the background, and then this is just the very top of his hat. I may work across and see if I can work on more of the blue. That seems like a pretty easy place to be. But we'll see once I get started kind of what sounds good. But that's where this is currently. So I will check back with you tomorrow, which is Saturday, September 1st, and show you my progress, and then talk about what I'm going to work on very briefly, just to kind of sum up the month of August and pop you into September. Then I'll have a regular cross stitch section in my podcast mid-September, which you guys will actually see before you see this, I think. So anyway, there's where I am today. Before I get started, I'll check back in with progress later. Have a good day, guys. Bye. Hey, everybody. So today is actually September 1st, and I'm just getting around to recording my final project that I worked on for Arbitrary August for yesterday, which was August 31st, Friday. I pulled out this project, which is the 12 Days of Christmas by Jim Shore. And at the risk of sounding like a broken record for everybody who has participated in Arbitrary August, I forgot how much I love this piece, and I'm really looking forward to it coming back out again. So that said, here is what I worked on. Did not have a ton of time yesterday, so I put in this star and then just finished out the last blue thread, cat hair. And then I came over here and did one thread of the gold. That's this kind of filigree border over here. So that's where this one sits for right now. Glad that I just got some stitches put in on it, because it was the only one of my projects that I hadn't put some stitches in so far this year. So that felt really good that I've touched all of my whips. So just a few notes. I really enjoyed Arbitrary August a whole lot more than I thought I was going to. I didn't love switching out my setup from project to project like every single day, but I could see we're doing it more like, I think Jessie Marie did every other day where she switched it out. I think that would be more manageable for me, but still get a lot of projects worked on. So if we do this again next year, that may be what I decide to do. I did reach one of my 2018 goals, which was touching every single one of my projects at least once this year, not just in Arbitrary August. I worked on almost everything. The only one that didn't come up was Six of Swords, but I had already worked on that earlier this year, so I did not slot it in again to work on in August. I think that the working on one project every day, a different project every day, lends itself better to smaller stuff. It's very hard, or at least it's very hard for me to get traction on bigger projects, especially like the full coverage ones. I just feel like I don't get anything done if I'm just doing like even 100 stitches on it. But that could just be me. So in general, I really loved it. I appreciate that Sarah at Stitch and Mommy suggested that we do this for August. So stay tuned. I will pop back in with the rest of my first couple weeks of September video to show you what I've been working on in September and talk to you about plans going forward. So thanks for sticking with me through all my vlog posts, guys. It's been really fun, and I hope you've enjoyed it. Bye for now. Here. And now that you've watched those and we've come back, let's talk about what I've been working on for September. And I have a little bit of acquisitions to share with you guys, and then we'll talk about what I've been working on and my plans going forward. And I think we'll start with acquisitions because there's not really that many of them. I had a couple of kind of belated birthday gifts from two friends. So the first from my friend Christina is this fun kit. It's not technically cross stitch, but it is embroidered. And it comes with everything you need, all the little felt pieces, the printed muslin, not the hoop, but all the floss, everything. So I love that. I think that's super cute. I plan to work on that at some point. So I have that. And my friend Joy picked me up. This is Midnight Glow. It's one of Mill Hill's buttons and beads kits. And comes with, you know, the usual floss and the perforated paper and all the beads. So that is like perfect for the season. My friend Joy is a Halloween aficionado. She loves things at the end, in October. I'm having problems with my months today, I guess. I don't know. Anywho, she got me this. So that will also go on the to be worked on. And this is also not in any way, shape, or form cross stitch, but I have to share it with you guys because it's so awesome. Excuse me. She went up to the Denver Renaissance Festival, I think it was. And there's a vendor there that she knew of, and she was like, "Oh, I want to get you a thing. Are you afraid of spiders, or do you like spiders?" And I love spiders. I actually, down in my studio, I have a barn funnel spider. You can Google that and look to see what they look like. They're just kind of nondescript little brown spiders, but they make amazing webs that look like a vortex. They kind of spiral in, and they live down in that hole, and then they come up. And she's been sharing my studio space with me in one corner. She has her web all set up, and I don't disturb it. She doesn't disturb me. They're not poisonous. She's very busy though. She spends a lot of time weaving and working on stuff. So it's been kind of interesting to watch her because she's kind of like right over there, and then I can work here, and we have our separate spaces. But anyway, so my friend Joy got me this, and I love it because it is very similar in color, excuse me, to the little creature who is sharing space with me. I will put a link to this lady's website. She has all different kinds. She has ones where the bodies are made out of like beads that look like skulls, and then she has the stone, I think this is jasper maybe. Anyway, and then all those little articulated legs. I love her. This little one's been keeping me company on my desk. So, anyway, so there were those. I ordered, so I've been doing Stitch from Stash, and I finished up the end of June with $175 ahead, and so I did put in an order for some fabric with color and cotton, but those are all dyed to order, so I don't have them yet, which is fine. There was no rush. They were just ones that I decided I was going to order, so those will be here eventually. Excuse me. I was wandering through after I watched Pip Stitch's newest video where he was talking about some Teresa Wensler patterns, and I realized that I didn't have any of those in my stash anymore. I used to have some, and in one of our moves, I think it went into a yard sale box. I had all the carousel horses and stuff like that, but it's fine. I mean, you know, I'm not like upset or bitter or whatever. Just making the statement that I realized I didn't have any Teresa Wenslers in stash. So I went on eBay, which is you know, something you probably shouldn't do. And I found this kit. And I hadn't seen this one before. It's in, I think it's like a Christmas collection book that she did, but I hadn't seen it as a standalone. So it's called Companions, as you might guess, and it came with all the floss. There is linen in here. And whoever originally got this actually went through and sorted all the floss, so it's already on these project cards, and you can barely see it, but it is labeled. They are labeled. So I just, you know, it has a horse, and so pretty much there I am. So love that one. And it was very reasonable. It was like, I think $20 for the whole kit and a couple bucks for shipping. So I'm not going to start this right away, but I now have this in stash, and I think this will be a really fun Teresa Wentzler to do when I get to it. Maybe next year. Okay, so there's that. Then I also got my Color and Cotton Fabric of the Month from, I guess it would be August. Excuse me one second. This is the colorway Molasses, which is a gorgeous dark chocolatey brown. This is on 32 count Lugana, and no specific project for it right away, but I mean, it's a gorgeous like gingerbread color. I could see doing any of those like Christmassy things on it where you have a lot of white or something with a light color. That's pretty close. So this was, I believe, the neutral for August, or one of the neutrals. I can't always keep straight how many colorways Angela does in any given month, but at any rate, Color and Cotton, which I'm sure you guys all know that by now. Angela's got an amazing set of colorways, so so those came. And then finally, this little bits and bobs, which we'll talk about in a minute. Yeah, let me talk about that when I get to the project that it's for. So, what I have been working on. I finished up the Best Friends Santa, which was the Mill Hill kit that I actually started this last month. Here's the pattern copy, if you will. So it's a Jim Shore artwork piece, Best Friend Santa, that's kitted up by Mill Hill. It's one of their little ornaments. And I don't have this finished in terms of fully finished, but it is done. All of the stitching, all of the beading. And I think it came out super cute. I love it. There was a lot of beading in this one, and a lot of like ninja type stitches that were not the case on the other one I did last year. That was their, which of the Santas was it? It wasn't one of the Celtic Santas. Oh, it was Rocky Mountain Santa, I think it was. This one had a lot more, like, there'd be one stitch of dark red here, and then there'd be another one up here, and then there'd be one like right there. So a lot more thread color changes. But I love the beads. I think it came out really cute. I love that dog that he's holding, which looks kind of like my Lizzie. And so I think last time I showed this, that was part of my Arbitrary August vlog in my last video. I thought that the face looked really, really pink, like flushed, feverish, or too much eggnog kind of color. And I think it actually was supposed to be that bright, but it looked really, really odd to me. So I ripped out what was called for, and I did it in, like, I did each of the flesh tones one color down, and I skipped the brightest pink, which is there in his cheeks. And I think it came out fine. I actually like it better, so a little more subtle. Anyway, so that one is done. That is a done project, and I will get, I have to find it, but I have felt backing, and I'll get it all ready when we get a little closer to Christmas. Okay, so then I think y'all remember maybe on my last video I commented about the fact that I was having really severe start-itis, and I know part of it, Sarah of Stitch and Mommy and I were talking about this, right? So part of it was the fact that I'm slogging through this monster knitting project, and you know, it's on a deadline and it's not like I can put it down. I just have to keep chipping away at it. So yes, that's part of it. But I think also, you know, the weather's turned cooler, like it's starting to feel like fall. It's down around 50 at night. You know, I'm sleeping with a blanket on. It feels so good. So I think that's just part of my wiring for fall is like, oh, it's time to do new craft projects. So I decided that what I'm going to do, and we'll talk about this a little bit more in plans, is have 3 new starts in September, plus work on one already started project. And I think going forward, I'm just going to toss the concept of getting down to 12 finished or 12 works in progress out the window. I'm just going to not even count anymore. It's just not, it's a hobby, right? It's supposed to be fun. And if I want to start something, I think starting it, I'm actually getting more stuff done because I'm like staying focused with the things. Because I feel like I can start whatever I want and I can work on whatever I want, and it's sort of freeing that back up into a hobby status. So the first thing that I started, I decided what I was going to do is I was going to do one of the 3 new starts. That was something that I had on my list to start, that I wanted to start this fall. And then I was going to let the Tiny Decisions app pick 2 more for me. So this is one of the random ones, and it picked Brenda Gervais's October Wordplay, which is just about perfect because it's fall, and you know, October is next month, and I can deal with that. And I love these. I have January and February finished, and I love it when I have them out. They're a good size. They're really cute. They go with the seasonal decor. So I was really, really happy that this one came up. And if you follow me on Instagram, you'll see that I have this, I finished all the stitching, and then I also went and mostly finished it. I still have to sew close the bottom. But there is October Wordplay. The back is just striped ticking. I have a whole bunch of this, and I've got it in several different colors, and so I'm using it to do all of these, so they'll be consistent in that aspect. They'll all have that striped ticking on the back. All of the floss is color and cotton. I subbed everything out, and I think it came out great. It's on a 28 count linen that I hand dyed in this pale gray. There are a couple of liberties taken with the pattern, but I'm totally fine with them. And if you know what they are, you can keep that to yourself. So it's not an exact duplicate, but there's just a couple of small motifs that got shifted around a little bit. Love the witch and the tree. I think that is like my favorite part. And then those little acorns came so cute. I love them. So I will definitely, you know, I'll get that tacked together. So this will be done, and I can display it for next month. I already did put out some of my more generic, like autumn, fall, without a specific month on them, themed pieces. So this one is done. Okay, so there's that. So that's what I worked on last week. Okay, so then the next thing, oh, I can't believe I didn't even bring up the pattern. Okay, well, the next thing that I started, and I will insert a picture, is Joan Elliott's Fall Fairy. And this is the one I wanted to pick because I wanted to start it in fall and have it to work on in fall. And just word to the wise, my plan is to start each one of those seasonal fairies in their appropriate season. So like December, and then when spring of 2019 comes, and then summer of 2019 comes. So I will insert a picture here. And this is where I am right now on it. I just started it yesterday, so not too much. This is the upper wing, and I think you can see there's these little bits are done in Krynic, so they have a little bit of sparkle on them. The fabric is a 32 count even weave from Chromatic Alchemy, from their hand-dyed Fabric of the Month Club. I think it's exclusive. Like, I don't think she reproduces these for 6 months, so I'm no longer in the club, but this was, I think, from the spring, and I think it's just about perfect for this design. It's got like some bronzes and that sage green in it, and it's a little bit browner here at the bottom than it is at the top, which I think will work really nicely with the design. So I'm going to work on this for the next week. That is the dealio with that. And so that then also goes back to this last little bit of stuff that I purchased. Excuse the crinkling. So I have the 2 colors of Krynic. This is the one that I've already used for like the wings part, and it is 3280. And this coppery one is 027. So there are those. And then there's 3 colors of beads. There's 02038, which is copper, and 00374, which is kind of iridescent dark peacock-ish. It's got a lot of, let's see if that side is any better. Yeah, it's got a lot of green and like dark purpley blue in it. And then just the antique pearl, which is 03021. So that kind of used up my 175 gift card-y, budget-y thing from Stitch from Stash. So I've been doing pretty good. Otherwise, I have been trying not to buy much of anything and just kind of Stitch from Stash, hence the name. Let's see, let's talk about, let me get my other project out from my bin here. Okay, so going forward, let's talk about plans. If you watch Michelle Bendy and Bendy Stitchy, and I know y'all do, you may know that she's now doing, it's not Arbitrary August in September, but it's Arbitrary August in September. I can't remember what you're calling it, Michelle. I don't know. She's using her Tiny Decisions app to arbitrarily pick what it is that she's working on for the month of September, and maybe longer, because that darn thing is really addictive. I mean, it's got all the fun, bright colors, and you just push the button and the wheel goes around and it tells you what to do with your life, and it makes me wonder why I haven't used it for basically every major decision I've ever wanted to make. So the only thing I want to get some traction on this month, and is not something that I'm going to have the Tiny Decisions app pick for me, is after I work this week on Autumn Fairy, excuse the crinkling, I want to put some time in on my Drawn Thread Welcome Autumn piece. So I know you've seen this recently because it was part of my Arbitrary August projects that I worked on, but here's the pretty picture of it. And I am working this using hand-dyed silk threads from Redfish Dye Works on a 36 count linen, I want to say creme brulee from R&R Reproductions, but I'd have to double check that. So when we last left this project, I had been working on the W, and I have just the acorns to do. There's some long stitches there, and then the back stitching on that green leaf, and then the W will be done. So I'm going to try to work on this for a full week and see if maybe I can get this finished in time for the autumnal equinox on the 21st. So I think if I put a week's worth of my stitching time in on it, I'll get pretty close, and then we'll see kind of where I stand with it for finishing. If I'm really close, I might add in more than those 7 days, but we'll see. We'll see if maybe I can just get it done in those 7 days. The C here is done completely. Hang on one second, y'all. I'm sorry. I know there's almost nothing more annoying than watching someone like type on their phone, but there you go. Hopefully that was pretty quick. My husband was just checking in, and I wanted to make sure, like I said, that he was doing okay. He's off to bed in the UK, so hopefully all will be well. Anyway, so this is what I'm going to work on next week. Not this week starting the 10th, but the following week starting the 17th. I'll work on this. And then my last project, I let the Tiny Decisions app decide for me. And I was actually really, really thrilled with what it picked. Y'all may remember that I have this book on my bookshelf. It's a collection of Joan Elliott designs, Bewitching Cross Stitch. I got my copy off Amazon. I don't know where else it lives in the world, but Amazon. And the project that I had earmarked out of this book was the Celtic Wheel, which is this amazing cushion that has all of the 8 Celtic festivals throughout the year on it, and I love it. Love it, love it, love it. So I'm going to be stitching that one, and I will start that for the last week in September, whatever that is, the 24th maybe. I'm going to be working it on a color and cotton even weave. This is 28 count Ugana in the colorway Sampler Gold. Now I actually have 2 pieces of this. This is the lighter of the 2 pieces. The other piece I have is definitely more golden, but I think it's going to be perfect as kind of a primitive neutral background for this. The mottling is a little bit more noticeable on camera for you guys than it is in real life, but that's pretty close for the color. So I haven't seen this pattern of hers worked up particularly. I mean, I'm sure if I Googled it, there's somebody out there who has done it, but I was just, I mean, I like the other patterns in this book, but that was the one that I just was like, that's gonna go to the top of the list. And yeah, so we'll see how I go on that. I'm considering maybe possibly adding some blending filament or something. I'm not sure. I want to think about it before I actually get started on it, but I do think that the gold braid would be pretty with a little bit of sparkle in it. And there really isn't any, everything else is DMC. There are no beads. There's nothing else in this particular pattern that's sparkly, which is fine. I certainly have plenty of other things that do have sparkle, but I think it might just be a nice little extra addition. So we'll think on it. So that will be kind of finishing out September for me. So what I've decided to do going forward, since I have tossed my concept of I must finish everything on this short list by the end of the year, to try to get down to 12 projects, since there's no way that I will be at 12 projects at the end of the year, even with the things that I have finished, even if I finish this little guy. So what I'm going to do going forward is I'm going to set myself up with a weekly rotation driven by tiny decisions. Now, certainly for the rest of this year, that's what I'm going to do. With the exception of there's the one Joan Elliott Winter Fairy start that I'll dedicate it a week to start. December, I guess that will be. I'm going to let the Tiny Decisions app pick whatever I work on, and I'll work on it for a week. So I'll have 4 projects a month, and we'll work on those and see what I get done. And I figure this will let me work away at that for, I mean, September is basically already booked, but it'll give me October, November, December to see how I like that, to see how much progress I'm getting done on things, especially the bigger pieces, like the full coverage pieces I've got. But I think it will also let me rotate through enough stuff that I'll start to see progress on everything as opposed to only maybe one thing every so often. And then we'll see how it goes. We'll see. We'll just see. We'll see how much I'm getting done, how much is, you know, getting closer to coming towards a finish. I do know there's one piece that I will, if I don't get much time in on it, going forward for the next 3 months, October, November, December. That's the Key to My Heart, and I want to make sure I have that done. So I would pull that out and have it be a focus, let's say January, if I don't already have it finished just by luck of the draw. So that would be the only thing I think I would manipulate a little bit to be sure that I get it done, because that one is for my anniversary in March, and I wanted to have it done by March so I can have it framed. And I think then that'll be fine. I don't have that much more to do on it, and it's not that big a piece. So we'll see how it goes. Yeah, so that's my tentative plans for now. And as you know, plans are always subject to change because that's how we roll here. But I do think it'll be fun to see that. And I don't know, I kind of like the not knowing for sure what it is I'm going to work on until the Tiny Decisions wheel picks it. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. The other thing I did want to mention, although I didn't bring it with me, I'll bring it next time I come to talk to you guys, is I did finally do the fix on my chatelaine. I got rid of that horrible burn hole and I rewove the fabric, and I think it's an easier thing to do with linen because I think the threads are thinner than the plumper even weave, but it worked out okay. I think if you were to, you know, look at it right here, you could see what I had fixed, but from across the room, you can't see it at all. And I've done some stitching over it, over the mending, I guess I'm calling it. So that does help kind of blend it in. And yeah, so I'm pretty happy with it, especially as like a first and hopefully only time I ever have to fix a hole in my fabric. I think the technique is also a little bit easier if you can do it on something that has like a cut edge, as opposed to like a burned hole. Having never done it on a cut, like the cleanly cut version, I don't know if that's the truth, but that's how it felt. So anyway, I'll bring that to show you guys, and I'll talk a little bit more about the process of it, and I'll link to that video next time I talk to y'all, because I mean, me talking right now is already over an hour, and I'm sure it'll be about an hour and a half by the time I put my vlog clip in. So I will finish up for today just to say I hope you all are doing well. Always lovely to hear from you guys. I hope that you have a great next couple of weeks here in mid-September, and then I will talk to you guys a little closer to the end of the month and check in with what I got going on. So we'll talk to you guys then. Take care. Bye.